All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of VCC Live. This is Kevin Skipper and Grim Green coming to you live this week. Our other co-host, Jay DeLuco, is traveling, so he will not be with us today. Yeah. I'm going to try to both produce this with the software that we have and also watch live with the YouTube feed muted, which looks kind of weird because it's delayed, but I'll see if I see any comments in the chat. I'm going to try to keep up with those as well. Maybe I'll just review them towards the end. So, Nick, what's up? How's things?
Things are good, man. Things are good. Things are busy. I went on a little bit of a break last week. I went back to visit my family, to visit my mom and my brother and my friends from Nevada. It was fantastic. I went to my old local shop, Nevada Vapor Supply, up in Carson City, Nevada. Great shop, very advocacy minded. And I actually bought a Nautilus Mini and some 18 milligram juice. And this has been the
right
vape
up my alley, dude.
Yeah, I know. I thought of you as I was buying this. It's just been fantastic. This has been one of my favorite vapes, like, of the year. I was shocked that the Nautilus Mini holds up so well, and the 18 milligram juice. I love it. I think it's great.
Well, I got down to 12 about 2 years ago, and I've been stuck at 12 since. I do vape 6 sometimes in like sub-ohm tanks and stuff, but it's just not what I do all the time. So that's pretty cool.
I've been on 3 for so long that I just chain vape 3 constantly, and I kind of wanted to. I know it sounds weird. I wanted to vape less because I just sit at my desk and vape.
Oh, I know.
Vape nonstop, and so this has been helping out with like. Feel satisfied and then focus on some work for maybe a half hour without having to, cloud up my office again.
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, I the 3s and the 6s, even when I vape them out of a sub-ohm tank, they hit a little bit harder, but I still don't think I'm getting the amount of nicotine that I required for, for me.
Right. It's how you feel. Exactly.
That's how I feel. Right. So that's why I vape a 12 out of a Aero tank or a Nautilus.
Yeah.
So anything new going on? Vaping Live, you took a week off. I took a little bit of time off. I went to New York as well, a friend of mine's birthday, and also he got engaged the same weekend, last weekend. So congrats to Alex and Alina. Pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool.
So a little bit of time off, but it always seems to go by way too quickly.
Yeah, too quickly.
Finalizing plans for VCCPA, which is in Pittsburgh, July 24th and 25th. You'll be there. Ruby Roo will be there. Matt and V from Suck My Mod, and at least 1 or 2 of the Plumes guys will be there. I think a couple of them have scheduling conflicts or can't leave work or whatever. But we're going to try to have a really great advocacy-oriented event like we always do. So it should be a good time. We still do have sponsor and vendor spots available. I don't want to talk too much about the event. That's not what this show is about. But just letting people know, if you want, visit vapingcc.com. It'll be a great event in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's going to be a good event. For sure.
So what's new this week related to advocacy? And I think you probably just heard my email, which I forgot to close.
Advocacy. So all good. HR2058 is bipartisan now.
That's right.
That seems to be the big news going around. It's bipartisan. We have a Democrat on board.
Yep. Representative Collin Peterson. He is a Democrat from Minnesota. He joined as a co-sponsor this past week. And what does that mean for HR2058? I had a post on Facebook about it, just kind of summing it up. And it's great for our effort and for future legislative efforts to have a bipartisan bill. I would like to see a lot more Democrats on board with it. And there's still some confusion. There's still, I had some comments on my post saying, it's, your tune's changing now. There's a Democrat on board, stuff like that. My tune was always the same thing. Support HR2058 for sure. Yeah. Because even though it will not become a law, which we're pretty sure about, the Obama administration has said that they're not changing the predicate date. And any bills filed during the 114th Congress, which is what we're in right now, last for 2015, 2016. If they don't get passed and signed by the end of this year, the 117th Congress starts next year, and you have to start all over again.
Yes.
So that's what I mean by it's not going to become law. Very, very, less than 1% chance, I think, that it will become law. Maybe even less than a 1% chance. But what does it mean, though? It means that if Representative Cole comes back with something and we have a long-term legislative plan for vaping in the United States going forward from 2016, that we have bipartisan support. That's why I said I would like to see even more Democrats on board. We have, I think it was 56 or 58 Republicans on board and now one Democrat.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I was talking about in the vlog is it makes that bill and that legislation basically just more appealing. If we see more Democrats coming on board, then other Democrats will see other Democrats getting on board.
Right.
And it just makes it overall more appealing. And like you said, it's going to hopefully help lay the groundwork for future better legislation.
I'm going to switch over here to the right monitor real quick and just show you. So right now we are at 64 Republicans. Actually, it's grown a little bit more than even I last checked it last week. 64 Republicans and one Democrat. And there you can see Representative Collin Peterson, Democrat from Minnesota. This is his page. I don't know if you can see the top. It's collinpeterson.house.gov. Thank him. We spend so much time, harping on the negativities of who isn't helping and who isn't participating. This gentleman went out on I wouldn't even say a limb. He went out on a twig. So yeah, definitely take a minute to send him an email or call his office and just tell him, hey, I'm a vapor and I really appreciate you co-sponsoring HR2058. We're looking forward to, hopefully working with Democrats and Republicans down the road to make vaping a viable option for smokers in the United States for years to come, forever.
Yeah, definitely.
So I actually contacted a few, and I'm not sure, hopefully this will render well on YouTube, but I contacted I don't have the page for them pulled up right now, but Representative Cole's office. I spoke to I left a message for Sarah Corley. I think she's his communications person, and I didn't hear back from her before the show began. So I wanted to kind of get an update from them on where they stand for HR2058 and the ColeBishop Amendment, but no news on that yet from them. And I did, regarding the ColeBishop Amendment, let's see. So basically what the ColeBishop Amendment was heard on April 19th in the Agricultural Appropriations Committee, and it was passed, as we all know. And I haven't heard much about it since then. I don't know if you've heard anything about it. I haven't heard anything about it. So
yeah, I've heard zero about it.
I got curious and called the Committee on Appropriations. And this is their information. This is the number that I called. And I spoke to a young lady named Melissa. And she basically told me what I already knew. Past committee. And she said basically they're waiting on the Speaker of the House to schedule it for a full House vote. So if anyone has questions, here's the number you can contact for the Committee on Appropriations, and just ask them what they know, and if there's any new information, and maybe encourage them to help push it along and put pressure on Speaker Paul Ryan, who is the Speaker of the House of Representatives. And I'll flip over to his real quick here. His contact information is here. I don't know who uses faxes anymore, but anyway, there's the phone number. It's 202-225-0600. Maybe you'll have better luck than I did, because when I called, I received an automated phone system talking about 15 different issues other than the one that I wanted to talk about. If you like this, press 1. If you disagree, press 2. To press here to leave a comment on this, press, whatever. And then ultimately it ended up, when I didn't get what I wanted, to a full voicemail system where you couldn't leave a message. So anyway,
there you go.
Representative government at work.
So out of curiosity, we want ColeBishop voted on sooner rather than later. We want to try to get it through as soon as possible, rather than wait and try to get more support for it, or
hopefully before August 8th. But
right,
that all depends on. It's really going to be tough for us this year. It's an election year, a presidential election year. Not that any election year is nothing, but a presidential election year, you typically have more voter turnout and more people interested in politics and stuff. So I'm sure that the Speaker's office is extremely busy and the Speaker himself is extremely busy, but we need to have Speaker Ryan call this for a vote on the House floor so that the entire House of Representatives can vote on it.
Okay.
That's the next step.
Okay. Excellent.
Sooner rather than later, yes, absolutely.
Sooner rather than later.
As soon as possible. Hopefully before August 8th.
Hopefully before August 8th.
Yeah, that's all I had on the updates for those. Not a whole lot of new information. Just keep contacting your representatives. I know we sound like a broken record, but that's what we have to
Yeah.
do. I mean, if your representative is not supporting HR 2058 or co-sponsoring it yet, Republican or Democrat, we want to get more Democrats on board.
Yeah.
Keep up the calls, keep up visiting their office, make friends with their staff. We needed to be doing these things so that when the time comes, we have something to fall back on, a bipartisan bill that even though it may not have passed in 2016, we can work on changing the language and get some bipartisan support for 2017-18 Congress.
Yeah, absolutely. And something I always repeat in my vlogs is you have the ability to request a meeting with your representatives and with your Congress people. Like you have that power as a U.S. citizen, and use it. I mean, utilize it. I see people on Facebook all the time who are, I'm going to a meeting with so and so representative, or I'm going to a meeting with so and so representative. So it's a completely viable option, and it's probably easier than we all think it is.
Yeah.
Don't be intimidated.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially talking to their staffers, they love hearing from constituents. It's what keeps them in a job.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
if you can't get them, leave a message. If they don't call you back, call them back the next day. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. Keep contacting them.
Yeah, definitely.
So I guess we may even end up having a little bit shorter of a show today. There's not a whole lot to talk about state issues wise. I haven't heard a whole lot happening there either lately. Again, I think everyone's caught up in election cycle, and which may end up being a good thing. I mean, if they're too busy trying to get reelected, they're not messing with vaping. So
right. I thought there was one state thing I saw via Instagram, but this might take too long. I want to say it was Virginia. Good Lord. Sorry, dead air. Okay. I know. Oh no, West Virginia vapor tax. There's a call to action. West Virginia vapor tax. You can call the. This is all I saw on Instagram. Oppose West Virginia vapor tax. 304-558-2000. Call today to oppose the West Virginia vapor tax. That's the most recent state call to action that I've seen recently.
I'm looking at the CASA website, and their calls to action now goes to a state list. Okay. So let me see what they have for West Virginia.
Yeah, it says, I got tagged 3 times in this repost, oppose the West Virginia vapor tax.
Well, this is CASA's. Let me make it a little bit bigger here. No post.
No post with West Virginia. Huh.
Let's show all posts and see what happens. But the latest update then was May 31st from CASA's call to action blog. So PA take action to oppose a 40% wholesale tax on vapor products.
Sure.
And then May 24th, Illinois, which I think we've already covered these.
Yeah.
So it doesn't look like a whole lot's been happening the last couple of weeks, which is, like I said, probably a good thing.
Yeah, which is definitely a good thing.
All right. Let me just check the, let's see. No questions yet from anyone. So I guess we'll move on to what will probably be the largest segment of episode 4. I put rant. It's not really a rant. It's more of a. I want to pose a question, and I want to have people post in the comments, and maybe you can share this on your social media outlets as well, so it gets more exposure and we get more discourse from vapors across the country and world. Are vapors being too nice? And by that, I mean not too nice, obviously within our community, but I'm talking about too nice as an approach to affecting change with the FDA, with Congress. Matt Kohlis from Suck My Mod and V did a vlog this week, and I checked it out. I've been trying to watch less stuff lately so that I listen to and watch less stuff so that I keep an open mind. And whenever we do the VCCLives, they're my thoughts and they're my opinions. And maybe it's overlapping with what other people are saying. I don't know. But I want them to be kind of unfettered and unbiased in my own opinions and thoughts. So But I do like watching Matt's information because he's blunt and to the point, and that's what I enjoy. He puts it right there for you. And he had a recommendation. By the way, just before we do that real quick, I forgot to mention this. If you look at the top of, so I changed the quote this week. In the end, if the people cannot trust their government to do the job for which it exists, to protect them and to promote their common welfare, all else is lost. So I'm just curious if anyone can tell me without Googling who said that. And we'll reveal it at the end of the show to be the last thing that we do. Kind of an interesting quote.
Yeah, that's a really good quote. I'm really interested to see who said that.
All right. So anyway, going back to Matt and V's vlog, he made a recommendation for a documentary which relates somewhat to advocacy and advocating, not in the vaping industry. It had to do with HIV and AIDS in the 80s and 90s. And the documentary is called, I think it's called How to Survive a Plague. So I actually watched it. I took time and checked it out. And there was a lot of valuable information in there. I learned a lot of things about the HIV and AIDS plight that they had during the 80s and 90s and trying to bring attention to their cause, how many people were dying, and how the FDA was screwing up then too. So I guess not much has changed with the FDA over the past several decades, but they were screwing up and people were dying.
Yeah.
So it had a really unique and good perspective on advocates for HIV and AIDS and the different organizations, how they started out with such unity and they were just, saving lives. And the point of their cause was crystal clear. And then over years and years of working, it became less clear and it became more jockeying for position, I guess. Does that sound familiar?
Sure. Yeah, that sounds. That's definitely something we can relate to.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's something that we can relate to.
So I want to play this clip from the movie, and hopefully YouTube doesn't block it. It's not. I don't think it's copyrighted. I'm sure you can find this footage freely available in the public domain. But I want to play this little clip because I thought it was the most poignant part of the movie related to advocacy. And hopefully you can hear it. Maybe you won't be able to, or maybe you'll be able to watch it on the live stream if you mute your mic. Mm-hmm. This is at a meeting, and I didn't catch where the meeting was, but it was different advocacy groups for HIV and AIDS. And this is several years into the fight to get the government to release drugs that would possibly help HIV patients and AIDS patients. And the FDA was basically sticking to their guns with a 7 to 10 year process to approve it. And people with AIDS and HIV at that time didn't have, a couple years.
Yeah.
So it's an asinine approach to public health. So they're trying to basically say, let's cut that down to a 6-month time frame or less and get these drugs available to people who need them now, not people who are going to need them, because the people who need them now are going to be dead by the time you finally get around to saying, okay, yeah, it might be something worthwhile. So let me switch over here, and there's a bunch of infighting going on right now at this meeting. They're yelling at each other, cussing at each other, and this gentleman here, you can tell, is just taking it in, and then he finally has enough, and he breaks, and he says this.
Whatever AIDS pimp operation is paying you. You're making the same point George Bush...
Plague! We are in the middle of a fucking plague, and you behave like this. Plague! 40 million infected people is a fucking plague. We are in the worst shape we have ever been in. All those pills we're shoveling down our throats, forget it. ACT UP has been taken over by a lunatic fringe. They can't get together. Nobody agrees with anything. All we can do is field a couple of hundred people at a demonstration. That's not going to make anybody pay attention. Not until we get millions out there. We can't do that. All we do is pick at each other and yell at each other. And I say to you in year 10, the same thing I said to you in 1981 when there were 41 cases. Until we get our acts together, all of us, we are as good as dead.
Wow.
Pretty powerful stuff. No?
Yeah, that's intense. It's scary how well we can relate to that. How I can relate to that.
Me too. At that time, I guess there were roughly 40 million people infected with the HIV virus. There are roughly 40 to 45 million smokers in the United States. They were able to affect change not by being nice. They did have a couple of approaches. There was an approach of people who were obviously more intellectual and educated, and they studied the drug benefits, and they knew as much, if not more, than the scientists who were performing the tests at the drug companies, and certainly more than what the FDA and the elected officials knew and were doing. So there became a split and a division, I guess, of people who were activists in the truest sense of the word. They were getting out, protesters, and they were organizing, stand-ins, and people were getting arrested, and it was making news, though. I mean, it was getting attention to their cause, and it was getting people to their side. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I just feel like, and I'll read for you really quickly. What do you think about that first? What is your impression of after you watch that, and how one man during this meeting just said, "Enough is enough," and he was pissed. You could tell he was pissed, and I think why he was so pissed and adamant about it is because he was such an advocate for AIDS and HIV research and their cause, and he just couldn't take it. What do you think after seeing that? You've never seen it before, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I've never seen it before. It makes me want to watch that documentary, but we're kind of in this place where I feel like we're walking on eggshells, and we're trying to be as polite as possible because we're scared of losing. And I think that a lot of people, I mean, including myself, have the mindset that if we're loud like that, or if we're protesting, or if we're angry, then that will make us lose faster because we won't be taken seriously. I get in the mindset very often that we need to work within the system. We need to be professional and respectful, and this is how things need to happen, rather than just protesting and getting mad. And I mean, it would 10,000 vapers protesting, all vaping and blowing clouds, would that have the same effect as it did with this many people protesting in the 80s for HIV and AIDS protection?
Well, I think you have to understand that back then, and there are a couple clips by former senator from South Carolina, Jesse Helms. Mm-hmm. They faced a lot more adversity than we face. I mean, people kind of shun smoking and smokers as a social habit that's not desirable.
Right.
But they hated gay people, hated them.
Yeah, hated them. You're
hated
right.
them.
Yeah,
I mean, there was true disdain for those people, for the lesbian and gay community, and it showed everywhere. I mean, I think that their fight was much harder than ours because there's no sexual orientation or choice. People of every creed, race, religion, sexual orientation, everything smoke.
Yeah.
Elected officials smoke. I'm sure people at the FDA, they have some smokers there. So we're not really coming from a perspective of where everyone literally hates us to the core. I think that was a little bit much tougher of a thing for them to overcome and accomplish. But you know what? God, I almost said GD. They did it.
They did it.
Yeah, they did it.
They did do it.
And it wasn't something that happened over the course of a couple of years. It was a good 14-year fight. I mean, I think finally in 1996 they were able to effect the change that they started out with in 1981. That's 15 years.
Yeah.
So for anyone thinking that there's a quick fix with anything to do with changing the way the government operates and how they look at public health, quote unquote, their interpretation of public health, it is not going to be fast. And I don't think we can be as nice as we've been.
Yeah.
Maybe it is time for a little civil disobedience.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I never really thought about it, but
I'm sure there are going to be some of the advocacy groups that are going to be watching this and say, "What is he talking about?"
yeah, stop.
But you know what? Like you said it earlier, and you said, you think that we're afraid of losing faster, but lose we will if we keep up the way that we're going. I'm just going to read a quick post that I put the other day about the documentary. It was like my first initial thought, and it was 2:00 in the morning, so not many people I'm sure read it, but whatever. I said, I just finished watching a documentary suggested by Matt Coley titled How to Survive a Plague on Netflix, and had a realization of the age we live in now compared to just 20 years ago. Before social media, people dedicated to and advocating for a cause met with each other in person. They made their voices heard in person. They attended governmental meetings in person. There were no keyboards, Gorilla Glass screens, or YouTube channels separating them from each other to hash out their issues, or @ symbols or hashtag symbols to bring attention to their life and death cause. There was passion and anger and lives saved. The irony of putting this out there in a Facebook post isn't lost on me, but it's what I've gotten used to. We become soft, our tone muted and lost in the fray of millions of tweets and comments. Our outcry in opposition of governmental policy that is contrary to public health concerns has mainly become haptic feedback on a phone screen. Maybe it's time to get unused to it. And what I mean by that is 20 years ago, they didn't have the social networking resources we have now. It's a really new development in the grand scheme of things. So what did they do? They made posters. They unified with each other at meetings and coordinated civil disobedience. Lawful in some cases, unlawful in other cases. And people were arrested and paid the price for the unlawful ones. But they affected change. And I think that we can probably tie those two in together somehow and make both the way things have always been done as far as advocacy and the way things are being done now. I think we can make them both work.
Yeah, definitely.
We don't have, I mean, I know people are probably going to say, well, this doesn't really compare to the HIV and AIDS crisis, but I disagree. I mean, over 400,000 to 500,000 Americans per year dying from smoking-related illness.
Yeah.
If you look at that over the course of, HIV and AIDS came out early 1980s, late 1970s, and they got a handle on it by the mid-90s, and lives are being saved now and changed because of the activism that was done during that time frame. Go back decades. I mean, people have been losing grandparents, aunts, uncles, parents, brothers, sisters to cancer and emphysema and COPD even before it was known as COPD for 100 or 200 years, maybe more. I don't know. And I would say that if the gentleman in that clip considered HIV and AIDS to be a plague, what are we facing here with combustible tobacco?
Oh yeah, it's an epidemic of smokers. And I was that same person where I knew that it was bad for me, but I just kept smoking, and I just assumed I would just keep smoking forever. That there was no other option, but now we have this other option. It's vaping saves lives. It's just that simple. Vaping saves lives.
Excuse me. So if we know this, and we now have a body of scientific evidence, and we have a body of studies and physicians and stuff like that, I think we need to be a little less polite and a little more in your face. And am I sure how to accomplish that yet? No, but it certainly got me thinking about that, and I will be thinking about it. And who knows? Maybe we'll get something organized in the near future. I would love to see that happen. I would love to see an organized, unified effort for some sort of a peaceful protest. Again, I'm not advocating. I like Martin Luther King Jr.'s thoughts on protesting. You can't meet violence with violence, because then you basically become the people who you are trying to set yourself apart from. Yeah. But if we can organize something like that on a grand scale, and I don't mean just get 300 or 400 or 500 people to show up to DC on the lawn. I mean 100, 500,000, a million. I don't know. I'm certain we can't get a million, but you never know.
Yeah.
But if we can do something on a grand scale and bring worldwide attention to our plague, the plague that we're facing right now, and the plague that we were once a part of, but chose to separate ourselves from, I think that would be groundbreaking. I really do. I think it would have a lot of impact on the elected officials who are controlling our industry.
Yeah. And honestly, something like that to a lot of people today living in today's society seems like such a foreign concept. You know what I mean? Like my first reaction when all this was getting announced was to, get on social media, get on Facebook and get on Twitter. And I was tweeting like a madman at the FDA, at, Jerry Brown from California. And that's what I don't know. That was my first reaction. It's like, oh, get on Twitter and yell at him. My first reaction wasn't, we need to organize something and get all these vapors together to, to make a difference, to force that change. It's just, it's just the mindset we're in as, being people that are alive in 2016, where we have access to Twitter and Instagram, and that's how we get our point across now.
But as we can tell over the past couple of years, we're not doing anything but appeasing ourselves. We're not getting our point across.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. We're not doing anything but appeasing ourselves. And
appeasing ourselves is not going to save vaping. It's not going to change the predicate date. It's not going to force the FDA to listen to reasonable scientific evidence. We're like lambs to the slaughter right now, and I think we need to change ourselves from lambs and become wolves.
Yeah,
just my thoughts. It's my opinion. Again, who knows? Maybe get some flack from it, but it's the way I feel.
Yeah,
we're in America, for God's sake. In my opinion, the greatest country on earth.
Yeah,
start acting like it.
Yeah, and I think there's a line between getting noticed and still being respectful. Like we want the public to like us. I think the universal rule of don't be a dick applies. We want the public's support. We want smokers and non-smokers support.
Well, and again, not to beat a dead horse, but if you look at the AIDS and HIV activists, I don't think that they were so much. I mean, before that, they were probably, they were closeted and hiding. And once they started dying by the tens of thousands, it became less of we want really public support. We want change to save our lives. It was literally a life or death thing. It wasn't, we don't care if you accept us. We're going to do what we want to do. This is our lifestyle. This is what we choose as human beings in a free country. We just don't want to die from it. That you could easily say that about vaping. Easily.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's my choice if I want to smoke cigarettes, which are going to continue to be legal after August 8th with no substantial equivalent, with no PMTA. If I wanted to switch right now and go buy a pack of cigarettes and start smoking again and kill myself with them, I could do that.
Yes, absolutely.
So anyway, I think that's a pretty long and good rant, and we're a little bit, we're going to be a little bit short on time today, but that's okay.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be an hour long. Maybe some people only have half-hour lunch and are like, "Come on, guys, wrap it up so we can get back."
Yeah, let's go.
I'm going to check the comments real quick. Yeah. So Tom Volkert says the West Virginia bill is Senate Bill 1012 and is looking at adding a 7.5 cent tax per milliliter on e-liquids. Looks like it's a budget bill. So we appreciate you, Tom, for clarifying that for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're in West Virginia, definitely get involved. Get involved, and I oppose any tax at all, even a 1 cent per milliliter tax on e-cigarettes or e-liquids, because once you open that door for them, even just a little bit,
it's going to happen like done. Crazy. We're going to see it hard in California soon too.
Yeah, every time a
loads of taxes.
Every time a governmental body starts losing some money in one area, they're thinking, where can we stick our hands and get more in your pockets? And if they already have something that's passed and in law, even if it's just 7.5 cents per milliliter, they're going to say maybe 2, 3, 4 years from now, let's bump it up to 10. Let's bump it to 15. Let's bump it to 20.
It'll go up and you won't even know. You'll just you won't even notice.
Yep. You'll just keep paying it and living your life and letting the government screw us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, where do we go from here? I mean,
now it's time for the reveal. In the end, if the people cannot trust their government to do the job for which it exists, to protect them and to promote their common welfare, all else is lost. What's that say right there at the top?
Oh, Obama. Thanks, Obama. Wow, he really said that.
Yep. August 28th, 2006. An honest government, a hopeful future. Ironically, he didn't say it in the United States. He said it at the University of Nairobi in Kenya. But they are his words that he said. And just to finish the paragraph, and this is why the struggle against corruption is one of the greatest struggles of our time.
He's absolutely right.
Can you? Yeah, the irony of it is just mind-boggling.
Yeah, the irony of it, and a lot of people are going to say, including myself, that that's a very hypocritical thing for him to say. Hypocrisy doesn't bother me as much as I think it bothers other people, because if you say one thing and you do another thing, then generally I'll agree with you on one of them. I'll either agree with what you're saying or I'll agree with what you're doing. And so I think that's an incredibly powerful statement. It's completely hypocritical and ironic that it came from Obama.
Right.
But regardless of that, it's still a really good statement.
It is. It is a really good statement. And if only his actions met with his words, we'd be in pretty good shape in the vaping industry.
I feel like we'd be in great shape if he would just, maybe follow up on that. Maybe email that to him, or
yeah, I'm sure he cares.
Send that to his office.
Yeah. So anyway, you have any closing rants or thoughts or anything you want to put out there?
No, not really. Obviously, thank you again for having me on, as always. I definitely want to watch that documentary now. It seems like it would be just great. Can't take your eyes off of it documentary. And
it is.
It's unbelievable how even that one little clip relates to us so well. I want to watch the whole thing.
Right.
I think everybody should watch it.
I think we need to all get into a room. Anybody who's interested, and maybe again that's something that we can organize and talk about, the planned civil disobedience that I think should be a part of our strategy. And maybe we can hash it out. People might leave with hurt feelings and a little butt hurt, but screw feelings at this point. People are dying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're exactly right. People are dying.
So, with that said, I guess we're a little bit early today, but like I said, we'll be back next week with another episode. I'm not sure if Jay will be joining us. I think he's still traveling for a few weeks, but we'll see if we can get him back, maybe even mobile on Skype or on his phone or something like that. Remember, you don't have to do everything, but you do have to do something. Get involved.
Yes.